I was asked to do a little survey of what's already going on online to begin my talk. So let me start asking some questions. How many of you are aware that you can go online on your phone, on a pad, or on a computer and watch live news broadcasts any hour of the day, any time? Can I see a show of hands? How many people know you can do that? There you go. And many of you have any of you done that, actually? There. Okay, we got a lot of people. Now, what about live sports? Are you aware that you can go online and watch live sports any time of day? Cricket, curling, squash, whatever you want. How many have done that ever? Okay, great. Now, what about a ballet? Do you know where you can go to watch a live ballet online? On your phone, on your pad, on your computer. How about an opera? How about a theater piece? Shakespeare, Goethe, anybody. We're not there. 20 years ago, a cultural revolution started where everything went online except the people who should have been leading the cultural revolution, the cultural leaders, the performance arts. So here's the state. Wrong way. Here's the state of current global content online. Live news to tell you about the latest conflict and catastrophes and scare you, or maybe tell you what to buy next. Live sports to tell you who jumped a centimeter higher, ran a little faster, scored one more point, playing the exact same game again and again and again. But if you want dramatic arts and entertainment, you get dead film or dead TV series. Why do I call them dead? Well, they're not live. You're either alive or you're dead. Film is dead. Recorded television series are dead. Hundreds of millions, if not billions of people on a regular basis, people just like you, have intimate, powerful personal reactions to dead material on screens. Empty patterns of light and sound. There are no actors there. There's just light and sound. The actors have gone fishing, shopping, they died, they're having lunch. You're not sharing an experience with them. Okay. It wasn't always this way. There was a time when performance arts were at the heart of society and the heart of Western civilization. In Athens, what we call in the West, the cradle of our civilization. Here. Push the wrong button. Every year in April, they have the tragic festival, and the leading citizens of Athens would compose and perform in their own tragic plays. If you're familiar with any of the tragedies that we have from classical times, Aeschylus wrote The Persians, which was performed at the festival. At the end of the festival, all of the citizens of Athens could vote on which was the best play. Aeschylus won the award one year for The Persians. One year it was Sophocles. He wrote Oedipus Rex. He won there. But both of these men were leading citizens of the city. Aeschylus wrote The Persians when he returned from fighting in the Persian War as a general. And 2 weeks later, you'd find him in the Athenian assembly, debating what to do in the aftermath of the Persian War. First he treated it dramatically, then he treated it rhetorically. Sophocles, in the Oedipus Rex, it starts with Oedipus agonizing over the fact that there was this terrible plague going on in Thebes. The bodies were piling up in the streets, and his people were begging him, how can we save the lives of our loved ones? In that same year, that same kind of plague had stricken Athens. And so, 1 week in April, Sophocles performed that story here, and 2 weeks later he was in the assembly, debating what to do. Theater, democracy, civilization were created together by the Athenians, and we've looked back to them ever since for inspiration. EU Arts Live is about recreating that with the entire global community, which we can do thanks to digital technology and streaming live video. So we're having a platform built so that we will be able to broadcast to the entire global community at no charge to the viewers content which will be live and always live. I keep pushing in the wrong direction, going back. Live. Performances of all kinds. operetta, theater, dance. We're starting to build a network to do that. Why does it have to be live? One of our slogans is, if it's not live, it's jive. If it isn't live, it's fake. If it's a movie, they repeated those scenes over and over again, then chopped them up. Nobody lived it. If you see a performance on stage, they're living it out. They don't get to stop and fix it. Adjust it in the editing room. If it's not live, it's jive. And I think young people want live. They don't want jive. It has to be live because here's Sarah Bernhardt. Over 100 years ago, she was the most famous actress in the world, and she started actually doing short films of some of her work. You can find one here on YouTube of Sarah Bernhardt playing Hamlet. Now back then, you could give people a choice. You could give them a chance to see her in a film recorded on stage. But suppose we had streaming live video at that time, and we gave you a choice. Do you want to watch Sarah Bernhardt recorded on this film, or do you want to see her live on stage? Obviously, people would want live. We haven't been able to give it to you before. Now we can. Okay? And there's something else I want to show you. How far am I? Too far. About live. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. That's live. And if the person you love the most in life was dying halfway around the world, and you could have a choice, you could see a film of their last moments, or see and hear them live on Skype, you know what you choose. So, everything we broadcast will be live. Also, everything we broadcast will be interactive. Why? Because when you're in a performance hall, even now, while you're just watching me, you're having an interactive experience. Each of you is creating your own artistic experience of the show. For instance, here, this is very simple. You have a woman. She appears to be trying to get away from a man. Now, one person in the audience is looking at the face of the man. Is he angry? Is he in love? Is he afraid? Another person is looking at the woman's face. Is she in love? Is she playing with him? Is she afraid? Is she angry? Another person is looking at the hands. Is he going to be able to hold on to her? Is she getting away? 1 second later, all three of them change. Another second later, they change again. And from moment to moment, each person in the audience completes the creative process. Passive, single-screen television and film destroys your part of the creative process. And that's why it's not nearly as interesting to watch that stuff on single-screen TV or in films as it is to be there. But what if you can be there and choose? Now you're participating in the process again. So everything we broadcast will be interactive. Another reason it has to be interactive is because this is the future, and anybody who is under 30 knows that a screen is not something you sit and stare at. A screen is something you play with. So we've got to give them the performance arts in a format that is meaningful to them and the future. Open your phone and go to www.artslive.edu. You could do it right now, actually, and then I'd see that you were doing it. When you get there, in the upper right-hand corner, it says, join us here. Put in your name and your email address, and we promise you'll get updates and news about when we have broadcasts coming up. Because we're not yet doing them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I'll tell you this, that's my vision, that's my dream. In 1980, Ted Turner came along, and if you wanted to watch live news, you waited until the evening news for a half hour of tightly controlled news. 5 years later, Ted Turner had 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, live news online, or on cable. Now we can do it online. Right now, somewhere in this world, not just one performance arts company, but many performance arts companies are putting on amazing performances, which you don't know about and won't get a chance to see. We can make it possible for them to bring those performances to you and for the entire global community to start sharing something besides news of the latest conflict and catastrophe, or who ran a centimeter farther or faster or scored one more point in a cricket game with 300 points being scored. We can start reuniting the global community, start transforming enemies into opponents who at least understand each other. The American movie actor Harvey Keitel once said, you know, this was back when the Balkan War was going on, I'll just take 10 more seconds, if I could get all the people, the Serbs and the Croats and the Bosnians together on one stage, we'd end it all by the end of the day. I don't know that that's true, but I know that there's much more positive, wonderful things we could share together as a global community through this. So, I hope you'll join us. Thank you.
What can you say exactly? Good luck and well done idea. Any questions?
No questions?
No, we do. Right at the back. Two at the back.
In the meantime, let me ask you a question. If you could go onto your phone or a pad or your computer at 8 o'clock on a Saturday evening and tune in and experience a live performance of something artistic, an opera, a ballet, or a play, would you do it? You could do that sitting in your own home at no cost to you? Did I see a show of hands? Some of you would. Okay.
So, may I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. It was nice. And my question is, you mentioned like live sports and etc. News. I have been a sports addict since I remember myself, and live sports, it's very popular, and hasn't it been so that those live arts haven't been that popular because there hasn't been that much of demand? Because for the live sports, there's a lot of demand. So that's why there are many providers for live sports. And for arts,
I think there are two reasons. One, first I want to correct the historical record. If you go back to the 1950s when television started, people went nuts over live theater, live opera and all of that online. In 1952, the first opera specifically composed for broadcast on television was called Int'l and the Night Visitors. Everybody watched it. And every season in the U.S., there would be a new lineup of works by the top authors like Arthur Miller and Tennessee Williams, and they'd be introduced with hushed tones live from New York. But in the 1960s, the television producers made a choice. We're going to go the way of film, not live. And they put a stop to it and stopped pushing it. Sports continued and became enormous. I don't think we will get as many people to watch live performance arts as watch sports. But if we can get 10% of the sports audience to watch live online culture, that will transform the revenue base of the performance arts. That will be magnificent. You get 10% of the sports broadcast audience. And don't tell me that 10% of the people aren't going to want to watch as much as the ones who want to watch sports. And if we get to 10%, who knows, the additional revenues may allow us to increase the quality so much. If we put George Clooney and Nicole Kidman on live on a Tuesday night, the whole planet's going to watch. See what I'm saying? But I won't pay them $20 million to do it. I say, you'll get paid as much as the other actors, or maybe a maximum 5 times what the other actors paid, because this is theater. And it's not the Hollywood star system. It's not the money system. And if they don't want to do it, I assure you there will be people who do want to do it. I was in a film that Pablo Larraín directed and he's a hot up-and-coming director. He studied theater directing for 6 years before he went into film. Woody Harrelson, one of the American movie stars, did a live movie broadcast from London last year. They know that just like banking is dying, Hollywood is dying. It's already dead. And they're trying to figure out, how do we get in on the digital revolution? What I want to do is come in with the live first, so they'll be coming in after us.
Do we have one more question? That's it. And that's it. Go on, speak.
Hello. First of all, I must say that your song was amazing. And I would like to ask you one question. You said that young people would like to have it live and not chat. Now take the case of a performance. If an artist is doing a performance and the audience is enjoying it virtually, sitting at the home,
Yeah.
would the artist be satisfied? And secondly, in the case of sports, we can see that there are loads of people in a stadium. And the guy in the last row might not be seeing anything which is happening in the ground, but still, he goes there
Yeah.
because it's his passion.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that such a guy would be interested in doing the same, sitting at the home?
Let me take the second question first. One of the things that we will develop over time is how to make sure that as you're listening online, you will hear the ambient sound from the performance place. And if you study films closely, you'll find out that sound controls an awful lot of the mood of your experience. So if we can have you hear the sound so that it's as if you're in the performance hall while you're seeing it as if you're in the performance hall, that will grab you. And now I forget what the first question was. But this is just the beginning basis. The idea is we want to do this when performing before live audiences. There are lots of actors who do excellent work in film, even though it all gets chopped off. They don't have audiences there. You may have people who prefer to use it without a studio audience. We think it's best to have an audience, and we'll be looking for ways over time, how can we build in your reactions to the audience's reactions? I'll give you an example. You could have microphones there in the hall which record and play back the audience's applause on speakers. Very softly at first, but based on how many people click on an icon for applause around the globe, they raise the volume of the microphones for the audience. So if more people liked it, the applause would get louder in the performance hall and also when people were listening to it. So there will be ways we develop that in the future.
One last question, and then can you short answer this?
Sure. We'll try yes or no.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question. You said that your platform will be interactive, right?
Yeah.
So will there be some option to interact with, I don't know, with actors or with athletes, or what do you mean by interactive?
Interactive means that you get to choose which camera is main screen. We will also be looking at things like, one thing you can do is you can use the chat box. I've had performance arts companies saying, we'd like to do an improvisation and let audience members online send in messages in the chat box saying, kill the guy, or something. You see what I'm saying? So that's another form of interactivity, that you can develop that we already have. And we'll look for other ways to promote it.
Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Really best of luck.